Today we reflect on the stations of the cross. Rather than only seeing these acts as the physical suffering of Jesus, let us, as Christians, also use this time to reflect on Lent, on the promises we've made, on the connection with God we have all shared and continue to embrace. The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. Jesus was unjustly condemned by Pilate to die on the cross. Jesus, you stand all alone before Pilate. Nobody speaks up for you. Nobody helps defend you. Sometimes I feel abandoned and afraid as well. Sometimes I too feel like I am treated unfairly. I have had a hard time when people criticise me at home, school or work. Help me to be patient and trust that God's plan is greater than my own.
The second station, Jesus is given his cross. Jesus accepted his cross, knowing he would carry it to his death on Calvary. Jesus knew it wouldn't be easy, but still accepted it and carried it just the same. We often feel underappreciated. We feel as if we accept more responsibility than we need to. We can feel sorry for ourselves, even though the crosses others carry are much heavier than our own. In our self-pity, we can forget to reach out to others.
The third station, Jesus falls the first time. His flesh was torn by the scourges, his head crowned with thorns, and he had lost a great quantity of blood. He was so weakened that he could scarcely walk, and yet he had to carry this great load upon his shoulders. The soldiers struck him cruelly, and thus he fell several times on his journey. This world may always persecute the good. Lord, thank you for choosing me at baptism. Help me carry my cross even in times of persecution.
The fourth station, Jesus meets his mother. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved so much standing by, he said to them, "Woman, behold your son, behold your mother." And from that hour the disciple took her into his household. As Jesus was walking to his death, he placed his mother in the care of the disciple whom he loved so much. May we too be trusted disciples who offer refuge to those who are suffering around us. Jesus, I extend my arms to our human family.
The fifth station, Simon of Cyrene carries the cross. As the soldiers pushed Jesus along the way, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, who was running from the country, and laid the cross on him, making him carry it behind Jesus. Simon of Cyrene reminds us of two things. First, I need to answer a call to follow Jesus, carrying the cross behind him. And second, I must fight my own reluctance to feel and cope with pain. The pain of those who are staggering as they carry their cross. Jesus, help us take opportunities to lighten the burdens of those around us.
The sixth station, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. The righteous ones asked, "Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food? Or thirsty and gave you something to drink? And when was it we saw you a stranger and welcomed you? Or naked and gave you clothing?" And the king answered them, "Truly I tell you, just as you did it to one of the least of the members of my family, you did it to me." Veronica used what she had, a veil, to wipe his face. What can I, just as I am, do to help the suffering? Like Veronica, I can use what I have, whatever knowledge, whatever ability, and take whatever action I can, however small. Jesus, free me from excuses and procrastination.
The seventh station, Jesus falls the second time. As the cross became heavier and heavier, it became more difficult to get up. Jesus continued to struggle and tried until he was up and walking again. He did not give up. Sometimes things get me down. Others seem to find things easier to do or to learn. Each time I fail, I find it harder to keep trying. I become impatient with myself and find it hard to believe in myself when I fail. It is easy to despair over small things, and sometimes I do. Help me when things seem difficult for me. Even when it's hard, help me get up and keep trying as you did. Help me do my best without comparing myself to others.
The 8th station, Jesus meets the daughters of Jerusalem. As Jesus carried his cross, he saw a group of saddened women along the road. He stopped to spend a moment with them, offering them encouragement. Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and your children." Sometimes I think a lot about myself. Sometimes I act like a child. I become so absorbed in myself and what I'd like that I'd forget about the needs of others. I take them for granted and often ignore their needs. Help me, Lord, to think more about others. Help me remember that others have problems too. Help me respond to them even when I'm busy or preoccupied with my own problems.
The 9th station, Jesus falls the 3rd time. Jesus' weakness was extreme, and the cruelty of his executioners excessive. They tried to hasten his steps when he had no strength to move. His journey has been long. He fell again beneath his cross. He knew his journey was coming to an end. Although he struggled, he kept going. Lord, I often fail. I find it hard to get along with my siblings, parents, teachers. Sometimes I'm not honest. Sometimes I'm lazy. I'm tempted to stop trying. I often feel I should have conquered my weaknesses by now. I become discouraged when I'm confronted by the same problems over and over again. Sometimes I get weary. When I have health problems, school problems, relationship problems, I can become discouraged and depressed. Help me think of the cross you carried. Help me continue to hope that I can make the changes in my life that I need to. You didn't give up. I too can have the strength to get up again.
The 10th station, Jesus is stripped of his garments. They mocked him, offered him wine and stripped him of his garments. People in the crowd joined in by cheering. Sometimes I repeat stories that are disrespectful of others. I gossip, I trick, I tempt others. Sometimes I can entertain thoughts that are not clean. Sometimes I give those around me a bad example to follow. Help me, Lord, to keep myself pure and clean. Help me to say things that build up the people around me. Help me resist temptation to join in on the bullying of others. Help me overcome worldly desires and to set a good example for others to follow.
The 11th station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. The soldiers continued to push Jesus along the way, and he was nearing his passion. When they got to the place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross next to 2 other criminals, one on his left and one on his right. We often discriminate against others. Even without thinking, we judge others because of their colour, intelligence, income, or situation. We forget that we are to live as brothers and sisters. Help us, Lord, to look deeply at the people around us. Help us see the hurt and pain we have caused in others. Be with us to help us make amends for the harm we may have done. May we continue to remember that your passion has given us hope for redemption.
The 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross. As Jesus hung on the cross, he forgave the soldiers who had crucified him and prayed for his mother and friends. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Having said this, he breathed his last breath. Jesus, you wanted all of us to be able to live forever with God, so you gave all you had for us. A person's last words are very important, sometimes a life summary. Lord, let us take a few moments now to consider your love for us. Help us thank you for your willingness to go to your death for us. Help us express our love for you in all that we do, today, tomorrow, and beyond.
The 13th station. Jesus is removed from the cross and placed in his mother's arms. Jesus was taken down from the cross. Two of his disciples, Joseph and Nicodemus, took him and placed him in the arms of his afflicted mother, who received him with unutterable tenderness. We seem to be kinder when someone dies. Lord, give me the strength to tell those around me how much I love them while I still have the opportunity to do so. Help me to see the good in those around me. Help me live this day as if it was the last. Help me become a gentler and more loving person through my greater appreciation for those around me.
The 14th station, Jesus is laid in the tomb. The disciples carried the body of Jesus to bury it, accompanied by his holy mother, who arranged it in the tomb with her own hands. They then closed the tomb and all withdrew. Lord, you died to give me life. Help me live it in a way so that one day I may enjoy with you in heaven the fruits of your passion.
I wonder if you've ever messed up something so badly that you needed to get external help to try and make the situation right. Sometimes when we don't take care of our health, we need to go and see a medical expert to make things right. Sometimes when we mess up a relationship, we might need to see someone like a counsellor to help things. I remember in my 20s, I was not very mechanically minded, and I once blew up the engine of my car simply because I didn't put oil in it. I didn't put oil in it for quite a long time. Now, with my limited mechanical knowledge, it would have been no point in me trying to fix the engine of my car. I would have only made it worse. So I needed to seek external help from a qualified mechanic to fix up my messed up engine. Now, I think that's a good analogy for what Jesus did for us on Good Friday and Easter Sunday. We humans had messed things up badly in our relationship with God. Starting with Adam and Eve, human beings had really turned their back on God and done their own thing. They continually rebelled against God and God's ways. In the end, God essentially said, I need to fix this mess myself. And so God did fix the mess. Jesus came to earth, allowed himself to be crucified, and then rose from the dead in order to fix up our mess. We couldn't do it ourselves. But Jesus, who is both human and divine, or God, acted for humans to clean up the mess that we had created in our relationship with God. That's the good news of Easter. Jesus was willing to suffer so much for our mess. He offers us the gift of new life and a new relationship with God. But just because God has stepped in the form of Jesus to fix up our collective mess, doesn't mean that we don't need to fix up our own personal messes that we create in our own lives sometimes. We need to continue to reflect on our thoughts and our words and our actions to see if they're in line with the ways of Jesus. And then we need to say sorry for what we've done, to confess our sins, and then to receive God's mercy and forgiveness. So let's be grateful this Easter that the biggest mess ever made was fixed by the greatest act of love ever seen. In this COVID-19 time, the most unusual and challenging of times in the lives of most of us, we need to seek God's help, I think, more than ever, so that we can be kind to other people and kind to ourselves this Easter and beyond, so that we can live in a world without mess. God's blessing to you and your families for the coming season of the resurrection.